Hello and welcome back to the course Helicopter Flying. Today we'll do a normal approach and landing at a nice bush airstrip here in this area on an island. Now, one general thing about approaches is they should be into the wind. That's pretty important in helicopter flying because the slower you get, it's important to have some wind on the nose to stabilize the helicopter. And you should also be aware that if you land into the wind, it might be necessary to hover back to a parking position with a tailwind, which can be dangerous, so just keep that in mind and maybe adjust your approach accordingly. It is also depending on the wind speed, of course. 5 knots may not really hurt you, but if it's 20 knots, gusting 30, you should really think about that, for example. Okay, another important thing is that you select and you keep your aiming point. Now, the aiming point is the point where theoretically you would end up hitting the ground if you just continued the approach without stopping at all. Select an aiming point maybe just a bit before the point where you actually want to be in a hover, and then constantly check your aiming point in your windscreen. If it's moving up, then you're getting too low on your glide path and vice versa. That's quite a nice way to keep a constant descent angle. Alright, now the airstrip's just ahead. I'll join a long final to it now, so that I can nicely demonstrate this. I'll also slow down to an approach speed of roughly 60 knots. And then when I'm on short final, I'll gradually reduce that speed further and further until I arrive at the hover. And from that hover, we'll then hover taxi to a parking position. Remember that when you're reducing collective on approach, you probably need right pedal or less left pedal. Okay, we'll shortly join final, so I'm reducing now to 60 knots airspeed. And I pick an aiming point just in the middle, roughly in the middle of the runway. Now I'll gradually start to reduce my speed. So that I'll arrive at a nice hover at approximately my aiming point. Alright, now we're approaching the hover. We'll need some collective and left pedal now. Okay, here we are. Just let's enter a hover. Alright, we made it to the runway. Now let's hover taxi to a parking position. That's to the left of us. Just keep a normal hovering height. Roughly 5 feet above the ground. It's a bit hard to judge in the simulator. And let's pick us a nice parking spot right here. There's no wind, so it doesn't really matter. We'll put the nose in terms of wind. I just try to keep my tail clear of the trees, so I'll land in this direction. Then go into a hover. And for landing, Just from the hover, gradually lower collective. Correct with side click so that you have no backward or sideward speed when you touch down. And gently set it down. Okay, that was nice. We've arrived at this beautiful little airstrip, and I think it's now time to shut down and go exploring. So see you in the next lesson.